All right. We'll just wait for a moment while everyone starts to come through. Well, welcome everyone. And we are at the end of the third day of our First Responders Summit. So thrilled to have everyone coming back and joining us again. It's been a wonderful few days and amazing feedback coming through from people from all spaces globally, but also all different agencies, community settings, volunteer agencies, and family settings. So absolutely brilliant to see the breadth of the audience that's really interested in this conversation around how do we take care of our well-being, definitely in the first responder space, but how do we really have better conversations in that space? So welcome from Wellbeing Australia. My name's Catherine Taylor. I'm one of the directors with Wellbeing Australia, and we're thrilled to bring you this summit. So just to let you know, Wellbeing Australia is a not-for-profit that is wholly funded by our members. So we are not connected to any one agency or association, and our funding comes from our members, hence our delivery to you. So this summit has come from you as our members in our community for you. Everything that we are doing has come from a point of feedback as to what's important to you and what you're feeling we're not having enough conversations about to protect and empower you in your own wellbeing space. So in terms of who we are and how we are different to other agencies and organisations, Wellbeing Australia is focused on positive, proactive, solution-focused strategies around wellbeing. We totally respect that we have very, very extreme points in life, and there are fantastic agencies working in that space. Our space is to say we have ups and we have downs. How can we live our life in the space when we're in a good space to protect ourselves for when we're heading into those bad places? So really from a solution-based approach. We're a national organisation, but as I mentioned, we've got people dialing in from other parts of the world, which is exciting, and all parts of Australia, of course. This summit has come about because we have been doing a lot of work within the community and with veterans, and a lot of people are speaking of the challenges that first responders are facing, and that we're not having enough conversations to help and support them. The themes of our conference are about living well and how living well can look to you and for you as an individual. We know that this is connected through a number of different aspects. First, connection with yourself, but also connection with your community and your social network. Having hope so that when you are in difficult times, you know better times are ahead. And having a sense of community and connection with those around you from support networks, from social, from all different parts of it. So that's really what we're focusing on when we're looking at this summit. Very excited about this summit, this session today. But before we do come to it, I just want you all to know that down the bottom of your screen, you will have a spot that says Q&A with two little speech bubbles. Please share any of your questions or comments in there. You can make them anonymous. So that's the only section that you can make them anonymous. That will be where we will watch and be able to respond to as many questions and comments that come through as possible. There is a chat box over on the side. We ask you to use the Q&A purely because it is more confidential, but also so we can make sure we get back to you. So just to kick us off, I'd like to introduce our expert in the field today, Rosemary. And Rosemary is going to share with us that whole concept of what is the difference for first responders. And we've had a lot of people who have joined us saying, it's a different world. It's a different world for a number of different reasons, but mainly because we are continually in a space of trauma, and often as lifers, as it were, we are moving from one agency to the next. So Rosemary, can you give us a little intro to who you are and what your journey has been?
Yeah, thank you for that. And quite humbling that you're calling me the expert, because my assessment of expert is always the unknown quantity under pressure. So, but I'm more of a known quantity, and that is somebody who has worked in the field of ambulance and health for the last 35 years, and up until 12 months ago, recently moved to Resilience New South Wales to take up a role as the Director of Capability and Planning. And I think, in the context of what you're speaking about, is it a different world? Well, I think it's probably important to remember that sometimes by donning a uniform in an emergency service organisation, putting a uniform on, we leave behind who we are at the door and put on a facade for the people we serve. And we do that because most of the time we are so committed to caring that, everything is for the individual. And I think that, when we talk about emergency service organisations and particularly ambulance, being most trusted profession and most caring and all of those sorts of things, that may well be true, but it actually does take a toll if it's not balanced, and you recognise that, life fundamentally goes on despite an ambulance uniform, and you are somebody different to just a uniform.
Do you think that uniform plays a positive or a negative role from a well-being point? Do you think it makes it easier? Like, people comment that when I'm a veteran and I do my service and I come back and I walk away and put the uniform away and it's done. Whereas we're not doing that. We might take the uniform off. We're still living in that space. Do you think that impacts us?
Yeah, look, I will be quite controversial and say that I believe that a uniform is actually a connection to tribe, and a tribal, the tribal piece, and is really important because it's about belonging. It's about belonging to a group of people who have shared values in a lot of cases, because they're there to help, and to separate from tribe can feel very isolating. And so it's really important to remember that is an amazingly tight bond when you're talking about, the cross of the ambulance stands for a whole suite of really important values. And that's the tribal marker. And people, we are fundamentally social beings, and subsequently, with that in mind, it's very difficult to step away from that connection to uniform. There goes the ice cream man, so I'm feeling happy.
Lucky you. And you met that tribe is a really interesting thing, because one of the things we've noticed over the last few days is how many people are speaking of the challenges from a personal perspective, right? So I'm part of that tribe and I feel connected when I'm at work, but then I go home, or my partner comes home and is in uniform, and I'm not part of that tribe. I'm not part of that experience. What's your take on that?
Okay, so that's something that's really, really close to my heart. Having left ambulance after 35 years, I moved into an organisation that is still serving, and I went through a leadership program, and I recognised when I was searching for purpose what is it that I do, and the initial piece of what is it that I do and why do I do it was really critical for me, and I love to help people, and that was the ambulance piece of the puzzle. And so by walking out of the door of ambulance after 35 years, if I had not have understood my purpose being to serve, and that serve could be in another way, I would have broken down. But having said that, one step more, having left ambulance so quickly and sharply, that move away from that was actually a very difficult 12-month transition period. It was, and my partner actually still works for ambulance. And so she comes home in uniform. I've had to continue to watch that. I'm no longer part of that tribe. I have a different purpose. It is the same values and purpose that I had before, but it is refocused, reframed to the new role. But it is incredibly difficult when you're going through that to go, how do I fit in the world anymore? How do I fit? Because I'm used to doing it one way. But I see now I have far more opportunity to give benefit more broadly because I work for Resilience New South Wales.
Was that something you had to consciously do? Because I think that's a really key point, right? Our purpose is driven through what we do. And sometimes we find, particularly when we're in wellbeing challenges and we're feeling low or we're feeling lost, we've disconnected that core value or purpose of me, and we've associated it to the role or to that, which sometimes I can't do anymore, right? There's a reason I can't continue in it.
I kind of will take you down a little bit of a different path to work you through that question. So if I get lost drag me back, please. But fundamentally speaking, I have a very long history. I started as a St John Ambulance volunteer, and the mottos of their order are pro fide for the faith in humanity, and pro ilitate hominum for the service of humankind. And that really resonated with me as a person, and that's what drove me into getting into ambulance, because it really was about the historical origins of ambulance, around the world. And so when you're able to identify that, and you can pull that apart and go, well, what's my purpose is for the service of mankind, humankind. It actually sort of is more broad than delivering ambulance services, delivering police or emergency services. It's in service. And I had to be very conscious about that, because part of the process of my career was they always used to call me the paediatric queen. And that was because when I worked on the road, it didn't matter what day, if I had somebody who was new to the role, I'd always end up with a really sick child. And the turning point in my career was one particular day where I had 3 really bad cases. One was a young baby who was in cardiac arrest. The second one, that was sort of first thing in the morning, first job off the rank. The second really bad one was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, school time, where a 5-year-old was run over by a car. And that was sort of probably the moment for me. And then the third case was a young 7-year-old who was a backseat driver in a car and had fractured her spine and was really critically ill. That led me to understanding. So in my hands, I had a 5-year-old child, and it was important that I was looking at a child with injuries that were incompatible with life. And I was trained to resuscitate. And I had to consciously stop, because I noticed that my partner suddenly had some back pain. And so as a result of that, what I did, I went, I'm a resuscitate, I don't resurrect. So this is about the service and how I can best serve. So you have wins and you have losses, but it was about recognising what we need to do.
And look, that's hard, right? Going through those, having those moments, it's hard to come back. And you've mentioned you're working with Resilience New South Wales. Resilience is one of those words we hear so much. In the last 2 years, my goodness, is it all over the news, right? We need to be resilient. We need to build resilience. We need to have a culture of resilience, all of this. What is resilience? What is it to you?
To me, it's just simply a ball. You think of a ball, a play toy. It's designed to be thrown. It's designed to bounce. When you drop a ball onto the ground, you never know where it's quite going to land. If you use more force, it may go further. If you use less force or drop it from a lower height, it may not go as far. So we actually don't know wherever we're going, but we do know we're moving. And so resilience to me is about the ball continuously moving. There are really high points because, sometimes it's going to bounce really high. It might be a super bouncy ball. And that's when you feel great, but you can't live life on highs because the ball's going to drop down really low at times. And that's just part of the journey of the ball. And that's the same for people. You can't really predict, and I used to think about it as a roller coaster. But the problem with the roller coaster analogy is the roller coaster always has a set destination, as a ball doesn't. The ball can take you on path A, B, C, D, or infinity. We never know. And so it's about going, okay, what I need to be is present. That's the gift of life, is having the moment to be present in life. And it's really, resilience is always, for me, is about being present and connecting with the things that are important to us, connecting to our values, connecting to those people that we love, having some passion about life, nature, work, whatever, but being balanced about that.
And it is, you're so right. It's the value of being able to know, I don't know where that ball's going. I can't control it, and I can't determine it, but I know when it stops, I'm going to have to deal with where it stops and how it stops and what I need to do.
I know the ball is going to bounce.
Yeah.
So I don't know which way it's going to bounce, you know. And you know, I guess when people have children, they do the same thing. They know they're going to have kids, but they don't know which way the ball's going to bounce for their kids. So, you know, it's a bit of a lottery. We are intrinsically risk takers, yet when it comes to this, we kind of tend to want to put ourselves on the roller coaster rather than throw the ball. We want to stay on something that's comfortable. We want to stay, and that's debatable, a roller coaster, but you know, you want to stay on something that's got a path, that's got a track, that's, you know, got some assurance that you're going to get to the end of that track. But we just don't have that, and so that's why resilience is about bouncing.
But what about, like, if you look, and I'm a big believer that we've had challenges, and first responders have had very difficult roles for many years. The last year and a half has highlighted it to people, but I don't think it has reinvented it completely. That's my personal view. Everybody's had those challenges. It's definitely heightened. How, when you are in that whirlwind of the moment and the media's got its noise and there's pressures from here at home, there's pressures from work, how do you make yourself present? How do you draw yourself back?
Yeah, well, I think there are two different parts to that question, because one is, how do you draw yourself back at work and put yourself completely in the moment for doing, and that's actually really easy for people who are trained. You know, first responders are absolutely fantastic going, I'll put others before myself. The real skill comes at putting yourself before everything else. The real skill is about, how do I give myself the hug that I need right now? The real skill is, how am I present for me, and what does that mean? Because look, from what I've learned over the years is that our greatest strength, that compassion, it can also be our greatest weakness. So we have that massive high compassion, but when we wobble, we fall very quickly. And that is fundamentally, it's all about compassion in that space. We care so much. It's a caring, it's a compassion, it's all of those things. But we've got to acknowledge that's also our weakness. What's our biggest strength can also be our biggest weakness. And so I guess for me, being present is going, okay, I'm really not enjoying this situation. But like Mark Croswell said yesterday, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. It is about what is this trying to teach me? And I think if you're struggling, what you've got to do is, you just got to pause and take a moment and say, who am I when I'm at my best? Because that's the person that's important.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because we speak about identity association to our values and those sorts of things. And a common question we've had over the last few days is, I see myself in this role. And I also know, if I seek out help, if I say I'm not coping, if I show that I'm vulnerable, I'm probably giving away, this is the perception that's been shared with us, I'm giving away a promotion. I'm probably going to be sidelined. I'm probably going to be told you're not tough enough, you're not strong enough, you got to man up, whatever it is. What's your perspective on that? Because it is something we've heard from people as a frustration for them, and as a fear of why they're not stepping out to ask for that help.
Yeah, and I guess I'll start by saying that the most important part about this conversation is the fact that we're talking about that particular issue. When I was in ambulance, I was pretty much the same. I would not have said anything for fear of promotion. I wouldn't be frightened now. I'm not frightened now to say to people, well, you know, I've had my ups, I've had my downs, but it doesn't mean to say that it's forever, you know, and that doesn't mean to say it makes me less of a leader. when you talk about your experiences in life, those experiences are all about making you better for the next time you have that experience. And so we're in a constant process of learning about who we are and what we can do. And people, you know, I have great recollections of some fabulous leaders over the years that have taken a moment with me because they have been struggling to sit in a corner and cry. And this is commissioner level, because something has upset them. And that was a revelation, because I thought, oh, okay, that's a commissioner, and they're not frightened of actually exposing themselves to me, demonstrating a weakness. But you know what? It's not a weakness. It's a strength. You know, when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, it's a real strength to be able to articulate how you feel. It's a real strength to be able to say what it is that caused that. It's a strength to be able to talk proudly about, I know that's hurting me, but it's going to make, I can be better. I can be better because of this. And so I think the paradigm in which we live has applied a stigma to mental health. And it's something we have to bust by saying, no, actually, this is now my strength. You know, we all have abnormal reactions to, you know, we all have normal reactions to abnormal situations. It's not normal for somebody as a first responder to see another person burnt. It's not normal to do that every day of your life over a period of a career. You're going to have a reaction to that, whether it's a sudden urgent reaction or whether it's cumulative over a period of your lifetime. And it's just about accepting. My journey is very different to somebody else's journey. And just because they didn't have a problem with it doesn't mean I can't. And just because I didn't have a problem doesn't mean you should. You shouldn't, you know. So I think that's really the key. It's really about accepting the fact that this is a consequence of humans in society. Mm. We all are impacted. And I think the COVID situation here in Australia, as it has been all the way around the world, is demonstrating very clearly that we're social characters, and when you take us apart, we crack. And if we can't hug, we crack. And that's okay, because that's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And that's the way we've got to start framing this.
Absolutely. And as you say, these are our gifts, right? These are our strengths, the compassion, correct, the empathy that I have, the desire to improve the health and well-being of other people is what's driving me. So naturally, I'm going to feel that when I feel there's injustice, or when I feel I've seen too much to cope with at that point in time. You mentioned about, you know, the vulnerability of senior commissioners showing their emotions, talking about, and that's exactly, as you say, bursting that bubble is about us speaking about where we're really at and seeing that our physical fitness and our mental fitness are the same. We need to continue to build these, and it's something that somehow through history got detached. I don't know how. Just got detached. That calls into question leadership. It calls into question, because a lot of comments have been, you know, you're telling me to take ownership or empower myself or have these conversations, but what if my leader, or I'm a leader and I've been trained in the model of what was, and I'm expecting to hold what was? How can this culture change be of value to me? Why should I change that? Yeah,
well, I think, you know, culture is this wonderful thing that is seemingly elusive, but it's not necessarily impossible. And we create a culture by virtue of a collective set of attitudes and behaviours. So if we change the attitudes and behaviours, and for me, leading with care, you know, the most valuable resource are the people that work for me. I'm not successful if they aren't fabulous. And I have, you know, the people that you work for all have a different story. They come to work with their own set of baggage. They come to us from other agencies with their preconceived ideas and baggage. And it's not necessarily bad baggage, it's good and bad baggage. But it's about making sure that we recognise as leaders that everybody has their story. Everyone's had their own journey, and using the journey that they bring to make everybody stronger. And I think that the changing culture is actually very achievable if our leaders, and certainly I've heard plenty of them on the panels this week, if our leaders start to express, like tell people that it's okay, model, actually demonstrate kindness and compassion and vulnerability, not crocodile tears, you know. It's important for people when I work with resilience, when I'm sitting on a committee, you know, I cried in a committee meeting for the State Recovery Health and Wellbeing Committee. I cried, and they looked at me as, oh, it's a bit weird. And I cried because it's the bushfires for me were so real, because my property was affected, but I'm working for Resilience New South Wales. And so, you know, is that resilience in itself that I've just kept going, but I'm also not frightened of hiding the fact that it's been hard.
And that's it, isn't it? It just showing that it's been hard doesn't mean I'm not able to keep going, but it means I have to release a bit of that steam.
Yeah, correct.
And you spoke before about, you know, how at work first responders are really, really good at setting those boundaries and those, you know, that's exactly what makes them so good at what they do. What about in the home world? Are there any tips or strategies? Because we're whole people. We have families, we have children, we have partners, we have whatever is in our world, right? And quite often a number of different elements. When we're looking at ourselves as that whole piece, what strategies have you learned? Maybe you've been fortunate to go into different parts of different agencies, but also different parts in terms of leadership. What would be those strategies or tips you'd say to people, these are things that have helped me, or these are things that have worked for others?
Yeah, I think, you know, the good thing about a uniformed agency is that it actually sets up really quite strong rules and, you know, parameters for operating within. And so it's actually easy to create good habits. We're all good at having bad habits, but it's actually quite easy to create those good habits. But I think we've got to start with people when they first come into those roles. And I think I think the habits that I sort of like to encourage is, I always had a rule that when I first started with ambulance, I had a rule that when I'd finish my day, I'd come home and I would allow myself 30 minutes, and my family knew that I would have 30 minutes just to talk about my day. Once that's spoken about, it's turned off. And I did that. I do really dumb things like playing solitaire on the computer to switch my brain off. I find it's really easy. I challenge myself to complete an electronic game of solitaire in 2 minutes. If I get it in 2 minutes, I can go to sleep. But if I don't, you know, I keep going till I get it. I ride a motorcycle. I do bushwalking. I garden. I keep bees. What's really interesting about all of those is, although I speak to my family for 30 minutes, I recognise that I need to put something into my bucket. And they are all of the alone type things. They're alone for me to go, actually, I need to be putting something into my bucket, and this is what makes me feel better and able to do what I need to do for my family. I do have a quite an interesting family, you know, with challenges. I've got 3 kids with challenges. So, you know, it's just about making, if I don't fill my bucket some way by doing the things that I love, I can't help other people with their bucket.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, everybody has their elements. So everybody has challenges in their life, and they're seeing trauma in their work. So it's all these elements that are filling in a negative way that bucket. So we have to do those bits. It's funny that you say it's stupid or silly to do, because it's what works for us, right? So it's amazing how often we go, oh, well, it's really simple, or it's really silly, and we sort of diss it like it's not relevant or it's not important, but it is what works. So it's that kind of piece. And one of the comments that came through was that statement that you've made around vulnerability and leadership is the key, and it's the strength. Vulnerability is a strength, it's not a weakness. And I think that's something we need to adopt as the norm moving forward, is that recognition that we need to see the value in that to be able to continue that conversation on. So I could talk to you for hours, but unfortunately we have run out. I'm very disappointed by this, can I say? So we do have our next session, which is Lisa Cox, coming up. It is recorded live, so you will see that in the chat is the Facebook or the YouTube link. You can also get access through our website at the program page, so you can just click through there. It will start when you click on it, so you do not need to be on straight away. That's absolutely fine. But we do really want to acknowledge the value from this session and the feedback from you. So as I said at the beginning, we're here for you. So when you finish or you log off this session, everyone will actually get an individual survey with just a couple of questions for you to be able to give us feedback on the value to you and what you want to know more about. So please take that minute to complete that so we can continue to help you. And we've got amazing things that have come through from people already. So that would be brilliant if everybody could do that. The survey itself can be anonymous. You don't have to give us any of your personal details, so that's absolutely fine. Now, if you are feeling you need help and you don't have access to help at the moment, we do want to share with you, there are places that you can go to get help, and there are services not only within your agency but within society that you can call on to get that extra help if you wish. So we do want everybody to know that they are there should you wish. Now, I do want to thank Rosemary above everything for her sharing and for your honesty, because I do agree with you when you say it's about where we go next and it's how we create the new norm instead of trying to recreate things that have been. So thank you so much for your time. We will definitely continue this conversation, and thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you in the next session with Lisa, and definitely tomorrow. Thank you all.
Thank you. Stay well.
Thank you.